And let's get started here. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. First, I want to welcome you to, for this term, CS 499 and 900 seminars. So some of you I know, some of you, this is my first time meeting you. For those that aren't sure who I am, my name is Daniel Page, but you can just call me Dan or Daniel. It's easy enough. I'm not too overly formal here or there. This is my email here. I'm very easy to reach over email. For my office hours, I'll have office hours on Mondays and Thursdays. At least this is for spring. Later on in the summer, this might change. If not, I'll definitely announce that to everybody because obviously I'm teaching other classes during the spring and summer. So these might change, say, towards the second half when we're talking about, say, summertime. I might just reschedule this block here for the Monday and Thursday, 9 till 10:30. So this you could just drop by if you want to get help or you have anything you want to chat with me about. I'll be there. And also, since we do have our time block, technically we have a time block scheduled on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at this time. I was thinking it would make it easier, say, if you need to bug me or want to stop by to ask me about anything, if we're not meeting on Mondays, like, say, like right now, sometime during the week, just send me an email and we can always make an appointment and we could chat at that time on Monday. I think that makes it easy enough. But yeah, no, I want to make sure I'm available in case you need to chat with me anything or there's any questions. I'm really happy to help out. But yeah, no. So for those that are here, I presume you found the link to the Zoom room. So I think so far I would presume that everybody's found the course website. So that's good. So just for the sake of everything, I'm just going to kind of go through everything first. And I thought we would kind of chat a little bit about some stuff, seeing as well, one, I know a little bit about some of you, but most certainly this is my first time meeting a lot of you. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to do that. So there's a few things I want to kind of give you as kind of to-do items to think about. First thing is you'll find on the course website a class description. Just take a look at that. Just make sure you read it. All the activities are set up to be completion items, so make sure you mark it as complete when you're done. It'll activate any requirements later on. Another thing you can also complete is a questionnaire. So this will tell me information about, say, for example, what program you're in, and if you, say, are in a thesis-based program, who's your supervisor? Because I like to get an idea where everybody is and what kind of areas you're interested in. We'll talk a little bit about that afterwards, but I most certainly want to get an idea a little bit about this stuff so I can help you out as we're doing things. So one thing I want you to start thinking about, we'll talk more about this in a moment, is thinking about title and abstract, because in the seminars you'll be giving a presentation and also will be sitting in on a lot of your lovely presentations too. So I think this is a great opportunity to do that kind of thing, but you're going to find that in the next coming weeks you're going to start thinking about what topic you might be interested in doing for your presentation and giving a title and abstract for that talk. So just to give you kind of a timeline for what we've been up to here, the big things are, obviously we're here, this is our first meeting. Then what I'm thinking of doing is doing a couple of tutorial sessions. So for example, I was thinking next week on Monday. So I think that's the 16th, I think. Yeah, I think it's the 16th. I'll make a note of it here. We'll meet here again on Monday next week. I think it's May 16th. I was thinking we'd do a little tutorial session on writing abstract and a title for a talk and some of the big things to kind of focus on in one of these so-called abstracts and titles and some of the restrictions to be aware of for this. So we'll do a little tutorial on this. Because in this seminars, what we're going to be doing is there's going to be a few stages to this. So for those that have been through this before, not much is really going to change, but I need to make sure I do for the sake of completeness and go through everything here. So the big things is that in this seminars course, what we're going to do is I'm going to prepare you to give a presentation. So in this presentation, you'll be given a certain amount of time to perform it, and we'll be doing it all together. So everybody's going to be participating in these seminars. and you'll have an opportunity to ask some questions during this process. I consider this an important step in your academic program because it also gives you some opportunity, one, to think about research a little bit beyond just, oh, well, I could read some fun stuff. How do I present it? So you may have some experience presenting things already. Others for you, this might be the first time you're doing it. So I want to make sure I'm there for everybody, okay? But the big thing is that it's going to be laid out in stages. So I thought I would give us a flavor for this before we kind of open things up a little bit. So is that okay with everybody? Give me 2 thumbs up if we're all good with that. Awesome. So anyways, why don't we talk a little bit about this? So let's head over here. Let's go over here. So I was thinking, I'll give you some details about each of these things. A lot of these things you'll find on the course website, but also I think it's important that I address them specifically. So I want to give you some key deadlines and also some of these things. And keep in mind, I will update the course website with these deadlines in mind as we go along. But I want to make sure everybody's on the same page with what we're going to be doing this spring and summer. So as I said, we're going to have a little tutorial on preparing an abstract and title for a talk. You'll find that there's actually some documents already on the course website. I encourage you to take a look in that section. You'll find this all under step number 2 on the course website. You'll find a bunch of resources there. I encourage you to take a look at them. There's also some tips, for example, for isolating or segmenting out parts that you may want to include in an abstract, so that you can have an effectively communicated abstract. So a few things I want to point out here about this abstract and title. So the first thing is obviously us just meeting here today. So I'm not going to write down number 1. So I'm going to skip right to number 2. So we're going to focus on preparing an abstract and title for your presentation. So you might ask, okay, so what is this all going to be about? Now, for those that are more thesis-based focused courses, or programs, I should be more precise, for those, you probably have already a topic that you may have in mind for your presentation. They may have a specific area you're interested in. Now, if you're a course-based student, you may also have your own interests too. I'm happy to encourage and help anybody if they're, say, going through some of these things and you're just like, okay, I'm not sure exactly what I want to do my topic on. Like, Daniel, can I talk to you about this to see if I get any ideas? Well, I'm happy to discuss these things. But most certainly, especially for those that are in the thesis-based program, what will happen is you're going to be preparing this abstract and title, and I'll ask you to run it by your supervisor. So make sure you show this to your supervisor before you submit it over so I can give you comments on it. So the deadline for submitting this abstract and title, so I must stress that the title for this abstract will be something like, I think about, it'll be 10 words or less. So we want to keep them relatively concise. Jokingly speaking, I have a tendency myself as an author sometimes writing titles that are quite lengthy. So I understand and appreciate the importance of having 10 words or less. It makes it a little easier to keep control of how much jargon you might have in a title. I totally understand that one. But we want to keep these relatively concise. So the abstract for your presentation. So this is just a general description of your talk. So what is it going to be about? What is overall trying to be presented, etc., etc. This will be something along the lines of 80 to 120 words. So no more, no less than this. So it shouldn't be a really, really short abstract. It should still have some substance to it. But most certainly it can't be too long. Again, I'll tell you that these are some general guidelines that we're going to follow here, but sometimes out in the blue, when you're doing research, sometimes your research won't fit perfectly into these buckets. But most certainly, we're going to try to do that here at the seminars. So, one other thing I want to point out is that you might ask, okay, who's the audience for my talk? For those, if not sure, the audience will be your fellow participants here in the seminars. But keep in mind that these seminars will also maybe put invitations out there to the wider community of the university. And the presentations at this time, tentatively, are going to be done either virtually or hybrid style like we have the classroom that is booked. We might be doing that later on, like when we get to the actual presentations later. We might either do them some in person, some virtually, or just all virtually. We'll see what happens later on in the summer. So, that being said, just keep in mind your audience will be amongst everybody here. So, just keep in mind that when you're thinking about what topics should everybody else be familiar with, and how much of an expert can you expect them to be. So just these are the kind of things to keep in mind. Now, when you prepare this, I want to give you just a little bit of a deadline for this. So I'm going to expect these in by June 15th at the latest. So that gives us some time here. So I encourage you to think about what might be a good idea for a research topic, a research talk topic. So for example, if you're doing research right now, or maybe you're working in a lab, or you're not, or you have an interest in mind. Maybe there's a paper you find very fascinating and you want to do a talk about it. All these are perfectly fine things to do for a talk. So if you're ever not sure about anything, just feel free to run it by me. If you have a supervisor, I encourage you to run it by your supervisor first, because they might know a little bit more about the topic at hand than I do. Just to give a little bit of background for those that maybe have taken a course with me before, I'm on the theoretical computer science side of computer science, so I'm not overly familiar with certain areas of computer science, but I'm usually quite flexible with learning new things from different areas. So I always find this stuff really exciting. So that being said, this is kind of like the next thing that we're going to be focusing in on in our seminars, is focusing in on getting together kind of a description and title for your presentation, so that when you have this approved by me, what'll happen is you'll get on your talk, so you can start working away on that, or you can start even thinking about it as you're preparing this, because keep in mind that the presentation and its description are, while they're two different things, they're deeply woven with each other. What things do you want to highlight in the abstract? These are kinds of things that you have to keep in mind. So first, are there any questions before we proceed? Is this clear, everybody? So you're going to be preparing a little description of the research that you want to present, and of course, a title. And I'll be giving you some tips on how to do this next week. So we'll be having a meeting on Monday next week to discuss this. We won't have too many meetings, just to give it clear, because I know it is spring and summer. I know people have other things they want to do as well. But at the same time, I also want to give you some guidance too. So for example, when we start getting to the point where we're going to be having you working on your presentations, I'll also do a tutorial then as well to help give you some tips for preparing your presentation, things to keep in mind for when you're doing your presentation. These are little things. I will tell you some of my fun tricks when it comes to this stuff. So, any questions at all? Don't be shy. I'm happy to answer anything at this stage. If not, I'll keep going, and we can keep chatting about some more stuff afterwards too. So, okay, give me 2 thumbs up if we're all good. I just want to find out. Okay. Now, wonderful. So, after we go through this, so I just want to kind of walk us through the process for this term, well, the spring and summer. Keep in mind, we might pick up some more people as we're going along during the term. That's okay too. More the merrier. Sorry, I was getting very excited there. So the next thing will, of course, be preparing your presentation. So one thing that seemed to work pretty well last time, at least for in winter, at least from what Daryl had spoken to me about, is that he had people recording their presentations a week or two before the actual presentation dates. So what's going to happen is sometime towards June, I'll open up the schedule so that you can pick a time slot among our seminar slots for your presentations. So the presentations themselves are going to happen during the last 2 weeks of this course. So they're going to happen during the, presentations take the last 2 weeks of this course. So for those that aren't sure, this is basically the first half of August. August 1st to August 15th. We'll be doing the time blocks that during this scheduled time on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And what'll happen is we'll try to have it where we have a couple of talks each one of the days until everybody's given their presentations. And of course, you'll be required to attend all of these presentations. So we'll be recording the attendance for this. So I'll be asking you to keep track of your attendance on the course website. So keep in mind that these talks, if you're thinking about this right now and you're like really excited about giving a presentation, you already have the idea set out already even. I know some students can be really just into this stuff. I know I'm kind of like that. The presentation should be something along the lines of 18 to 20 minutes long. Leaving about 5 minutes for questions. So I'll be giving you some files to be helpful while you're doing this. So for example, if you want to use PowerPoint or want to use LaTeX Beamer, these are both perfectly appropriate ways to go about preparing your talk slides if you want to use slides. So I will most certainly have those resources available to you on the course website in a little bit. So if you really want to get into that and just have fun with it, I encourage you to check these things out. How many of you have ever used Beamer before? Has anybody here used LaTeX Beamer before? Awesome. So I'm talking about, Beamer, I use that almost all the time for my talks. Yeah, it's really wonderful once you have everything all set up. It's generally how it works with LaTeX, is the minute you have everything all together, then it's just this beautiful thing where you just put the things in, then you have all control over the slides, and then when it comes out, man, it looks wonderful. It looks wonderful. Yeah, question? Okay. So presently now, I think I'm trying to remember the discussion I had with the other coordinators. I know that they may have a rule involving the number of slides, but I can't recall off the top of my head exactly what that rule is. But keep in mind that 18 to 20 minutes is not a long time to have, say, 50 slides, unless you were planning to just animate them like a film strip. But when it comes to the slides itself, I usually recommend, this is just a rule, it doesn't apply everywhere, is you got to think about a slide being roughly a minute long. So if you're thinking about how you prepare your presentation, it depends on, obviously, your presentation style and how you use the slides, because one of the common misunderstandings of slides, even by researchers, is just that the slides are not your presentation. They're supposed to help guide your presentation, so it's just an aid. So sometimes when people look at their slides, they say, oh, I have exactly 20 slides, so I can't go wrong, right? I've seen people present talks with only 5 slides and they go an hour. Likewise, I've seen talks where there's 40 slides and they go 10 minutes. But most certainly, one common rule you'll find is a minute per slide is usually a good idea, or rule of thumb, especially if you don't have as much experience giving lots of research talks. I find that it's very helpful to go about it that way. But yeah, to answer your question, I can't recall off the top of my head the general hard or fast rules, but most certainly, if there's any limits, I would recommend a minute per slide if possible. But most certainly, I would highly advise, if you only have 18 to 20 minutes, to be a bit more precise. If you really are pushing that slide count, make sure that there's slides that don't have a lot of substance on them. For example, if you're giving For instance, if you're giving an example, you could even imagine you have, say, 3 slides, one showing one example, then you have another slide showing one small tweak to the example, then one slide showing you what the answer is for that example. That might be something a little bit more appropriate to have 3 separate slides for, as opposed to crunching them down all onto one slide, making it more convoluted. But yeah, no, that's actually a really wonderful question. The rule I would usually give is 1 minute per slide. If it makes it easier for you, if you're thinking about just a typical kind of presentation. I know that some people follow and really stick to that. Hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, for myself personally, I don't have a hard rule when it comes to slide count. No worries. No, I really appreciate the question. These kind of things I really love answering. Yeah, no, the slide count, yeah, there's not going to be, for me at least, there is no hard limit on the slide count. I will explicitly write that here, just to be very clear. Say, Daniel has no limits per slides. But I encourage you to think about it more like approximately 1 slide per minute, with exceptions. Because I know I've given talks where I've had 30 slides and given it in about 20 minutes. But definitely, you're cutting it it's very slim when you start going that route. You really have to make sure you know your stuff. Otherwise, you end up someone like talking a little bit too much more about things that you don't need to talk about. But no, that's a wonderful question. These are the kinds of things I love hearing about. But yeah, no. So these are the main things I want you to keep in the back of your mind as you're thinking about, say, a talk and how you might format it. I'll make sure that the resources for, say, the Beamer and the PowerPoint are available after this meeting. Because right now they're currently hidden on the site. I'll make sure that they're available if you really just want to start playing around with that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, I'm just trying to think of anything else off the top of my head about the presentations themselves. But yeah, what'll happen is I'll open up a schedule on your courses when we get there, after I've gotten your abstracts, or at least when we get close to that. I'll probably sometime in June at the latest, I'll probably release that out so you can schedule out where you want to have your presentation. And what'll happen, one other detail I need to bring up is that during the presentations, which will happen during this time span, like I said, you're required to be there, but at the same time, I'm going to require you to ask 3 questions. So you're going to ask 3 presenters at least 3 questions. So 1 question for each one of the presenters is all you need to do for this course. So this is one requirement I have from you, is that you're required to ask ask 3 presenters a question. So I'll ask you to keep track of the question you asked and the answer you got. So there will be a place on the Your Courses website to submit this afterwards. So I'll give more details about this when we get closer, okay, everybody? But yeah, so when it comes to this, I think, other than that, that's pretty much step 4, is attending the presentations, right? So you gotta make sure to attend. So you're required to attend these seminar talks. So that's the first thing you really need to know, is make sure you're there. We will be keeping track of attendance over your courses, so I'll ask you to keep track of your attendance on there. So I'll give more details about this if you've not done this before, as we get closer to that. I'm trying to think of anything else that I could bring up at this stage. One thing I will mention, that after we get past this stage, after this date, I'll probably arrange a time, as I mentioned, to have a little bit of best way I could describe it, a tutorial on giving presentations and some tips on making slides. I'm most certainly very excited to do that for you guys. I know that's one of those things that I used to teach some classes where I used to do this kind of stuff. So I'm quite excited to do that for everybody. Hopefully that excites you. I have a lot of fun with that. But yeah, no, I'm trying to think of anything else to talk about with the big overall picture of what's going to happen this spring and summer. So are there any questions at all? So I just thought I would give you a big picture first before we kind of chat about anything else. Any questions at all? Don't be shy. I'm really happy to answer any questions. No questions? Hey, that could be a good thing. Usually, I hope it's usually a good thing. No, wonderful, wonderful. So I thought I would chat about a couple quick things before I leave you for today. I thought this meeting would be a little bit more of a basic kind of thing where I get a flavor for where everybody's at and just see what I could do to help you be successful with the seminars. So why don't I head back over here, just because it gives us some more board space to play around with. So I thought I would ask you a fun question. So I'd like to usually get a feel for everybody's interests. So I thought maybe in the chat, if people wanted to type what their interests currently are, so whether you're a thesis-based student, what area maybe you're interested in, and say if you're a course-based student, what things really intrigue you? Like what kind of interests do you currently have? I'd like to get a flavor for just, I want to feel, the phrase is I want to feel the room. I want to feel the room, see where everybody's currently at. Like, is there any particular kind of area you're interested in? What area, or like if you're, say, a thesis-based student, what area are you interested in? Like, if just give me a big overall view of like what area you're currently kind of interested in. I usually like to get a flavor for these things, because I find that depending on that, it helps me out know about things. Oh, networking, awesome. Course space, 3D modeling, VR, AR, VR, awesome. Those, so far we're getting some pretty awesome stuff. Oh wow, okay, that's really cool. Okay, got some machine learning based stuff. We got network stuff. Very good, very good. So I'm getting a flavor for this. This is great. Because I always find this helpful, because then I get an idea where everybody currently is, so that whether it be, I'm sure that especially for the thesis-based students, you probably don't need as much guidance from me, but I most certainly want to help you be successful when it comes to the seminars. For course-based students, definitely if you have an interest, I encourage you to pursue it, whether it be if you find a paper that's really fascinating or something like that, let me know. I'm usually very happy to take a peek and see, like, oh yeah, that looks pretty cool. Or if there's somebody in the department that, say, you are talking to that are of interest, or maybe you're even doing some research. These are things that are all appropriate to give a talk about. Scheduling, planning, awesome. Qualitative constraints, network. Awesome. Awesome, got some natural language processing. Scheduling, planning. Scheduling is kind of one of my bread and butter, so I'm usually quite excited when I hear somebody talk about scheduling. But I'm more on the theory. I'm like the hardcore theory side. But most certainly, this actually sounds really fascinating. Gotcha. So we got actually a pretty nice variety. We got people networks, machine learning, AI. We got some people doing some planning. We got people doing, like, people are very fascinated about all sorts of different topics, which is great. That's one thing I'm glad to see. That'll make for really good seminar talks, because we get a lot of variety. Wonderful. But yeah, no, if you're working through your things and you're not sure, like, oh, I'm not sure if what I want to do a presentation on, that's all cool. Most certainly, whether it be like, say, if you're working on something from, say, a previous course that you want to pursue, maybe in the future, or maybe you find a paper that's really fascinating to you. These are all things that I think are really appropriate to pursue. But yeah, no. Generally, when it comes to this, you're going to find that a lot of our course is going to be very driven by activities over your courses. So, for example, you'll find that, like I said, just for now, focus mostly on just take a peek at this, make sure you mark it as completed. Complete that questionnaire. I know that some people have actually already started doing it. I think think before we started the meeting, I think almost half of the class already did it, which is great. And of course, start thinking about your abstract title and description. And most certainly when it comes to this general overview, just keep in mind that at the end of the day, you're going to be given some presentation. And oh yeah, one other detail I wanted to bring up. When you're giving, what I want you to do, and I was going here, one other detail is that about a week or two, I think I mentioned this, but I didn't write anything down here, is about a week or two before your presentation, I would like to see you record your presentation so I could give you some feedback, some initial feedback on your talk and your slides. So that way I could take a look at it. So this could be recorded, for example, over like using some tech like OBS and then uploaded, say, as an unlisted video on YouTube. It could be something that's done using some of the other tech on your courses. We have a couple different options for that. So that's one thing also I forgot to mention over here. It's just that about a week or two before your scheduled talk, make sure you record your presentation so I could give you some feedback before the actual presentation. So that's one other task you'll have to do before you give your actual talk. So are there any questions at all about the general process or anything of that mind? Because a lot of this, I think I've laid out most of what is needed for the spring and summer. It sounds like we're not doing a whole lot, but actually a lot of this is coming down to just figuring out what you're interested in giving a talk on and just making sure to keep in mind some of these deadlines. So the next one is, of course, the abstract and title. But yeah, make sure you complete this questionnaire as soon as possible. It gives me a flavor for where everybody is at. Now, I thought I would open up the floor. Are there any questions or anything that you want to talk to me about, or any just general things, or are we doing generally pretty good? It doesn't have to be about the course. It could just be a general thing about like where the seminars fit in your program, anything of the nature. I'm very happy to answer. Oh, I see a hand up. What's your lovely question? Okay. That's one thing that's something I never knew about, to be honest with you. What I want you to do is send me a message after class. I'll run it by Daryl. But most certainly the plan is to just do them all at once in August. But yeah, that's just the general plan, is to do them all at the beginning of August. So we might pick up some students towards the second half, but yeah, that's just the idea. Is we're going to do it all at the beginning of August. But yeah, just send me a message. I'm happy to we'll try to figure out what's going on with that. Excellent. Are there any other questions? Yes, just shoot me an email. I'm really happy to address that. But yeah, I'll try to get some more details on that. Excellent. Are there any other questions? I'm really happy to answer any questions. Okay, so if there aren't any other questions, I don't think I have anything else I need to bring up. So I'm thinking right now, probably the best, I'd let you get back to your rest of your day. Just make sure you go through these 2 items on the course website. I know that a good chunk of you already have done both of these. But yeah, just take a look. A lot of the details I described here are also on the course website under the course description that you'll find on the page. But yeah, just start thinking about a title, an abstract for a given talk based on your interest, whether you're currently doing a research project or currently you're, say, a thesis-based student, you're also working on some project, or you're currently doing some research and maybe you have some results you want to present, whether it be new or something that has been done that you haven't done a presentation for quite yet. Either way, I think it's a good experience overall. So I'm really excited about that. Because I'm excited to see what everybody could bring to the table. Okay, so I guess with that being said, I think this is the perfect place for me to stop. And then when we come back next week, so next week on Monday, I'm going to do a tutorial on how we might prepare the title and abstract for a talk. So I think what we'll do is we'll kind of go through some examples, and I'll give you some of my tips when it comes to this. Because as you might note from what I said over there, we're going to be following a pretty strict, well, I wouldn't say very strict. I've seen way stricter than this for conferences, but most certainly give you some tips to how to fit within these guidelines, because sometimes different areas don't necessarily fit nicely into nice buckets. For example, a description or abstract for something like a theory talk might be quite a bit different than a heavily empirical talk. So I want to try to help everybody through that process. So that being said, I want to say thank you very much and have yourself a beautiful day. I can stick around for any questions afterwards too. So I'm just going to stop the recording and I want to wish you a beautiful day. I'll let you get back to your day.